Welcome to Cross the Tracks, the podcast whose mission is to highlight the artists behind the best new releases from both the hottest new talent as well as some of the biggest black music artists. Hi, I would like to welcome a musician, vocalist, composer and producer, and the founder of one of the most successful all-female R&B and funk bands of all time, Klymaxx. Formed in 1979, Klymaxx was really something of a musical phenomenon. In the early 80s, releasing 6 albums and scoring major international hits with singles such as I Miss You and Menopause, as well as achieving huge album success with, amongst others, Meet in the Ladies' Room and Never Underestimate the Power of a Woman. She's worked with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis of Time and the Calloway Brothers, Midnight Star, of course, Stephen Shockley, Lakeside. And then afterwards went on to a solo career where she would write and produce for other artists, including Cheryl Lynn and Shalimar, just to name but two. In 1990, she released a fantastic album called Drama, according to Bernadette Cooper, which also featured cameo appearances from the legendary Tina Marie and Chucky Booker. And of course, Mr. Lenny Kravitz was there on the choir in the background there. So anyway, the reason I thought I would try just to get this lady on because she's been doing some special things recently. And of course, I'm talking about, how can I put this simply? The irresistible force, which is none other than Miss Bernadette Cooper. Bernadette, how are you?
I am fantastic, Wes. How are you?
I'm remarkable, thank you. Remarkable. I'm really pleased you could come on and just have a chat about what you've been doing recently. As I said, I mentioned the latest track which you brought out called Believe in Us, which I must admit really rocked me. And I know it's causing, it's causing a stir over in the UK and in Europe. So I thought I'd get you on just to tell me a little bit about that track. And then maybe we can dip into some of your recent past as well to find out what you've been up to and also what your plans are for the future. How do you feel about that?
Oh, fantastic. I was approached by Osunlade. I don't know. Osunlade is pretty famous in Europe. He's a great DJ. And yes, he hit me up and he said, he says, I want to send you a track and I want you to do something with it. I go, okay, no problem. So he sent the track. I go, okay, brilliant. I can work with this track. So I played around with it for about a week, left it alone. And I said, no, I'm going to really focus on giving him the best that I can give him, because I was honored that this, really incredible creative genius, I think, contacted me. So I worked on it for about another week and I left it alone. And I finally sent him the draft and he goes, I love the draft, but I need more of you. I need more of Bernadette Cooper. So I went back in and I laid the Dessous part, the talking part that you hear right now. And he got it back. He says, I love it. I'm not changing anything because I think initially he was going to add the choruses or something like that. He says, I'm not changing a thing. So what you have is Believe in Us.
You got to believe in something. So I walked into the room looking good as usual with no expectations to stun on everybody. But I saw Mr. Right tonight and you know I love myself. Everybody needs love. So I strolled over to him and said, why not believe in us?
Well, could I say that, as I said, the track really just rocked me. You one of those subtle tracks which kind of creep up on you.
Yes, thank you.
You start off with a serious face, and then you end up breaking out into a smile by the end of it. So it's really nice.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, that's my style. Yeah.
So tell me, Bernadette. I mean, apart from that track, what have you been doing recently? There are people saying, well, what's this lady been up to?
I'm constantly writing and producing. I just put out a project with me and one of the girls in Klymaxx called How to Survive a Midlife Crisis. We just dropped that right in the beginning of the pandemic, so it got lost a little bit. But I'm going to revive it soon. But that project is really a good project. A lot of jazz influences, a lot of wonderful things from the lead singer of Klymaxx and myself.
Will there be singles coming off of that project, or will it be like an album or an EP or?
Yes, it is an album. I'm going to release another single from it soon. But once I did this song with Osalati, it has taken off. So that now there's a demand for the second single. So I'm focusing on that right now. I'll be delivering a second single in November.
Oh, that would be great. So we haven't got long to wait then.
No, you don't, and it's great too.
Now I'm gonna pick your brains and say, listen, I've heard something that in the background that you've been writing novels and stuff in the recent past. Is that true?
You know what? I discovered another love of mine, and I said, this is probably what I want to do in the continuing ages of my life. I love to write fiction and create stories about experiences that I've been through. And that's what I've been doing. So I have 4 books that I have not released. I'm going to go back in and probably start releasing them in probably the end of 2021.
You mentioned they were fiction.
Yes.
What kind of fiction? Are we looking at, I don't know, murder? What are we looking at? Love?
Love, not so much murder, but love, very women empowering themes, about the experiences that you go through in life and how you overcome it, and women coming together and making a difference as a whole and create and make things happen. Then there's a spy concept, spy novel in there, a lot of different things like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So by the sounds of it, you're not just majoring on music. Now we're stepping over into a totally different arena. But it sounds like one which you're equally as comfortable in. Well,
what I'm also doing with these novels is creating audiobooks from them. So I am speaking, and I'm going to score each audiobook.
Wow. And a quick change of subjects. I was also fascinated when I was sort of looking at what you're doing at the moment, just how far ahead of time you are, as far as, how can we put it, girl power was concerned.
Yes. Yeah.
To know that you were so far ahead of time. And I was looking at the Spice Girls and realizing they sort of started bubbling around in the early 90s, probably about 94, 95, as far as I can remember, around that period, if I remember rightly, somewhere around there. And then I looked to see that you really, even up to maybe 15 years earlier, was kicking off and doing something really, really substantial as far as women's rights in music were concerned, and actually showing that women could be on stage, play their own instruments, write their own songs, and make their own impact, which I think is fantastic.
Yes, I grew up around very strong, powerful go-getters, making things happen. And my mother and my grandmother, they were very strong women. So I was always influenced by them and them telling me, whatever there is you want in life, you can do it yourself. So I kind of grew up with that theme of positive thinking, and I gave encouragement through my music regarding women power. I've always wanted to talk about that subject because that's the subject that I know best. You write what you know.
And did you have at the time any sort of female musical mentors? Who were you looking up to at the time?
Aretha Franklin has always been my soul survivor. I listened to it. I studied Aretha Franklin all my life. And if I looked up to anyone, or if anyone was my mentor or my motivation and my inspiration, it was definitely Aretha Franklin. And the feeling that she gave when you hear Aretha sing, she made you feel something. So I always try to do that with my music. Whether my thing always has a little bit of a comical edge, but you're feeling something.
And that's what soul music is all about, surely.
Yeah.
You got to believe in something. This is true, but I don't know. Trust in someone. Okay. You got to have faith to make it through.
Can I ask you, if now, if there was, let's say, a young girl, a young woman of 16, 17 came to you now and said, listen, I can see what you did, what you managed to achieve by, literally forming one of the biggest ever funk and R&B female bands. What advice do you think you could give them? Sort of coming into the, because there's a lot of people listening to the show who will be sort of in the industry, just starting off, but also really admiring people like yourselves who really, and trying to really just build things from where you left off. So what do you reckon? What would you advise?
That's a hard question to answer because everything has changed. So the advice you would give someone, on how to proceed, in the past is different from now. The few things that never change in life is determination, vision, and holding on to that vision if you really feel that is your mission in life. Don't let anyone ever deter you because everyone has their opinion, everyone has their own mission. So you have to stay true to what you believe, but also, be commonsensical about it. If it doesn't appear to be working for you, then it's time for a new dream. Don't be afraid to switch over and start a new dream, you know. But the main thing is to be true to yourself.
And when did you decide that music was going to be your mission? I mean, can you remember what age it was when you said, you know what, I think I want to do this thing for a living?
You know, I was one of those kids, I was very much to myself, you know. And I remember probably around 7, 8, I started realizing that I would follow melodies and I would listen closely and I would know the next phrase that was coming up or what the next phrase should be. And then right around 11 years old, you know, maybe 12, my mom got remarried, and my stepfather had a drum set. So I started practicing on his drum set every day. And then I started performing in the church. And right about then I realized, yeah, this is what I really want to do. I love doing this. I had no idea how I was going to proceed in life, but I remember that overwhelming feeling of this is what I love and I want to do. So I would think about 12, maybe 12 to 15.
Can you remember the first time, which maybe it was a gig, maybe it was news of a single going high in the charts? When is it when you thought, you know what, I'm here. This is where I want to be.
The kid has made it.
Can you remember that time?
I remember the feeling. Okay, I can definitely connect to the feeling. They have a concert that they used to give every year in California, the San Diego Jazz Festival.
I've heard of it.
I used to jump in my MGB with the top down and drive me. It's probably an hour or so from where I live. And I used to drive there with friends, and we used to go to the San Diego Jazz Festival. And I remember when Klymaxx finally played the Jazz Festival, I had that overwhelming feeling of, wow, the kid has made it. The girl is here. I've done it. I felt it for the first time.
That's great. Was it when you saw people actually rocking and singing your songs back to you?
Hey, yes. There were so many people, and it was, you know, it was exhilarating. It was fab. Yeah, I remember that.
And I remember you guys used to wear some of the coolest outfits as well back in the day. That was something which was really important to you. And it was funny, when I was actually doing the research for this interview, I noticed that over the past decade or so, you've also been in the fashion business as well. Is that correct?
You know what? Yes. It was natural. I never really studied it or whatever, but I've always had a love for fashion. And a lot of the clothes that the girls wore were mine, especially Lorena. You know, I always, even when we go on tour now, or when we used to go on tour, I would bring a bag of my personal clothes and everybody would grab onto it or whatever. Then I opened up my store on the East Coast. I opened up a store called Museum 68 Vintage, which is all vintage clothing that I collected in my travels, you know, because I just love beautiful things, to be surrounded by beautiful things. Here's another example of passion. Here's another example of vision. I moved to the East Coast, and I moved into this Art Deco building, but it used to be an old photo gallery, you know, so downstairs was a huge photo gallery, and upstairs was a dwelling. So I lived upstairs. I said, you know, I have to do something with this bottom part. I can make it an extension of my house. Or anyway, I decided to open up Museum 68, and it did so well. I had no idea. I had no past experience in retail. I just kind of went with my vibe and my flow and the passion and loving clothes, and it did extremely well.
It sounds like you missed it a little bit, I can tell. But I want to know, the question I'm asking, if I was around at that time and I wandered into your store, would I have seen you? And even if I made an appointment, would you have been the person who styled me and helped sell me clothes, or was it an assistant?
It would be 100% Bernadette Cooper, if I must speak of myself in the third person.
Well, if you wish, you know, I know who you are.
It's me, 100%. And a lot of people came in and were like, oh my God. Yes, I helped all my customers personally.
And now we're moving on to novels, and also, you know, obviously back to where we started with the music.
Yes.
Now, I would love to know what direction. I mean, let's take it, you know, after Believe in Us, are we going to be going down that same direction of kind of cool funk, or is there a new direction which is going to be coming now from Bernadette Cooper?
It's a mixture of things, but I am calming down and realizing that I really want to tour more in the UK. you know, and so I'm really focusing. What the UK really allows is good music. You guys love really good and live music. So I'm breaking away from that traditional U.S. way of you got to have a hit, it has to be a formula, and it has to sound like the last song. So now I feel free, and now I'm writing a lot of different things that are a little bit calmer. I pattern myself as being a masseuse, which is a woman who really speaks and talks about stories. So it's going to be a lot of that. But I'm going to try to reach out and do some new things as well. Much more mellow, much more to my demographics, my age group, my peers, people who want to hear certain things. And the life experiences are going to be put on music. In fact, Osunlade and I are working on an EP. So that, what you know, Osunlade's style is a little laid back and really mellow. Yes. And yeah, so it's going to be a lot of that. You know, it is hard to really say because I don't know yet because we're developing it now, but it will feel good to you. And
have you written most of the material already?
There's a few things I've written. You know, there's one song I love in particular called "No More Sex," which I absolutely love. You know, so I'm trying to get Osunlade in on it. Osunlade, I just sent him the stems, so we're going to see what version he comes up with of the song. But the song is very empowering. You know, it's taking back your body, taking back your life, and realizing that you don't have to keep repeating the same cycle. You can relax and chill, and you know, and learn to love yourself again. So that's what No More Sex is about.
Well, I know that a lot of people at the moment with the COVID situation, you know, the international COVID situation we're now enduring, are learning how to relax and chill all over again, aren't they?
All over again, you know, and learning how to love yourself, your tempo, and, you know, not letting so many negative energies into your life. So, yes, we are learning that. I think it was, you know, it's a horrible situation, but it has some good points to it because it definitely brought families together. You know, it brought couples together and made you realize if, you know, now that we can take time and learn to know each other, you know, are we going to stay together or we, you know, or go our separate ways? It's a life-changing event for a lot of people.
But Bernadette, I mean, all I'm going to say is we've got to go now, but I'm thanking you so much just for taking out these few minutes just to give me a shout. And I'll be the first to, you know, bring the stuff out. If it's brilliant, we're going to play. That's the end of the story. I'm going to make sure that it's on the WBSS platforms. I mean, your last track sort of really shot up in our weekly charts. I was really shocked by how many people just really just clicked onto it immediately and said, yeah, this is great.
I got great response. I'm shocked by it. I'm a little bit shocked right now because it's like, whoa, you know, I'm a little bit of shock, but I'm so grateful, you know, to the UK for embracing me. And, you know, I can't wait to get there and put on the most incredible show because my shows are always fun and funky and funny. So you guys will love that.
Well, that's all for today. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Cross the Tracks. Join me again soon for our next journey. Don't forget to follow or subscribe to the show on your favourite podcast platforms, whether that be on Apple Tunes, Spotify, Amazon or Google. And please remember to follow WBSS Media on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook and Instagram to get info on the latest episodes as soon as they are released. Stay curious.